that's very good, but okay, we're like kind of putting these things in order. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. I'll probably take 10 and 12 tonight. Okay, the first thing before I even do the action, what do I have to do? Right?
What do you have knowledge for to be able to actually?
Okay, I appreciate that you raised your hands. I will do this very much. I'd like for everyone to do this, but I think we just heard the answer. You said? Great. So you said intention. Our brother, you said intention. Meaning sincerity of intention, al-ikhlas, al-ikhlas, which is sincerity of intention. First quality that the Da'i Allah must possess and should strive really and try his hardest to gain is sincerity of intention, and this is supported by the very first hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari that he started his most authentic book after the Quran. A big project in Islam. Al-Bukhari started the first hadith which is related by Abu Hafs Umar ibn Khattab, who said, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم what? إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. Right? إنما للحصر, meaning that surely and only this is this and nothing but this. Okay, it's to explain to you. So here, إنما الأعمال بالنيات, meaning surely deeds or actions in Islam, and the reward of actions in Islam is based upon and only based upon intention, meaning sincerity of intention. So the hadith here has like kind of a funny story that a man migrated actually from Mecca to Medina based on a request that was made by this lady who accepted Islam, a Muslim sister who accepted Islam, and she actually requested from this man who approached her. He wanted to marry her in Mecca. So she told him, I'm doing hijrah with the Messenger of Allah. I'm migrating to Al-Medina. So if you would like to marry me, follow me to Al-Medina, and then that will be my dowry, and then I'll get married to you over there. So he did so. And then the Sahaba started kind of discussing amongst themselves, is this man considered to be a muhajir or not? Is he considered to be, because muhajirin in Islam, they have the most virtuous status, right? So they came to the Prophet ﷺ and they asked him this question and he gave them the answer. فمن كانت هجرته لله ورسوله فهجرته لله ورسوله ومن كانت هجرته لامرأة لدنيا يصيبها أو امرأة ينكحها فهجرته لما هاجر إليه. Meaning, if whoever migrates for Allah's sake and His Messenger, then his migration, his hijrah is for Allah's sake and His Messenger. And whoever migrates for worldly gain or a woman to marry, then hijratu, then his migration is for whatever he has migrated for. So really, purification of intention and sincerity is so crucial at this point, because guess what? This is actually the prerequisite of every deed in Islam. There are two conditions, two prerequisites for every action to be accepted by the worshipper in Islam, by the servant of Allah. He must fulfill two things. The first one is sincerity of intention, and the second one is, maybe it will be answered in the next characteristic. What would be the most important thing after sincerity? Would be what? You answered it earlier. What did you say earlier? Yeah. Knowledge, exactly. Has to be done according to the Quran and Sunnah. The knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah, al-intiba'. You say al-ikhlas wal-intiba'. Following the Quran and the Sunnah, meaning is done with knowledge. So sincerity by itself is not enough. Sincerity by itself is not enough, but you have to add to that also the knowledge. And subhanAllah, maybe you can share a story of, it's a sad story, but it is a true story. You know how the Muslims, the Muslim Du'at, they went to Japan a while back and they gave da'wah to the Japanese people, and they liked Islam, they wanted to embrace Islam. But subhanAllah, the Muslims or the Du'at who gave them da'wah, they were not very sincere, unfortunately. They did the sacrifice, they did the effort, but subhanAllah, they had a problem with their intention. It was not solely and purely for Allah's sake. What happened, that after the Japanese people decided to accept Islam, they questioned it because they noticed that they are like two groups of Muslims, or just giving da'wah together, but they are part Shafi'is and part Hanafis. So they kind of questioned this, they said, which school of thought shall we follow? which methodology shall we practice? Which form of Islam? So they said, well, the Shafi'i started saying our madhab is the best. The Hanbali started saying, no, our madhab is the best. So they started disputing, and this controversy arose. It just, became really catastrophic because the Japanese people, when they saw Muslims disputing amongst themselves on these issues, they said, you know what, thank you very much, we're not interested anymore, and they actually rejected the whole thing, and that was a big, big loss, because you can imagine, the kind of discipline the Japanese people have, superpower, very disciplined people, subhanAllah, a lot of their culture, subhanAllah, is so similar to Islam. You would have been the best Muslims, but of course it's Allah's will, and obviously those Muslims are responsible for their lack of sincerity. So, but these things are for us to learn. So sincerity, meaning that you call people to Allah, not to your group, not to your own madhab, not to your own masjid, not to your own this or that. It is solely for Allah's sake, to Islam. Okay, so second comes the prerequisite of knowledge. This is how important it is. The da'iyah, or you as a Muslim, in order for you to do any deed in Islam and to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you be rewarded for it, you must have knowledge, you must fulfill that aspect. Because if you do, any deed in Islam and you have the greatest sincerity, if you have the best sincere heart, but then your action is contradictory with the Quran or contradictory with the Sunnah, then it will be rejected. And in that sense, I'll give you also an example. How the da'wah or the dua, you can have, mashallah, a lot of sincerity and sacrifice a lot, but then if they are lacking knowledge, that could be also catastrophic as well. Muslims went to Zaire. Do you know where Zaire? Anybody heard of Zaire? Anybody likes Muhammad Ali play? Do you guys remember that match he had with George Foreman? Do you remember? Where was that?
Zaire.
Zaire. Zaire became so famous. It was the center of the world at the time. Currently known as what? Congo. Republican. Democratic Republic of Congo. Right. So now, at that time, Zaire was a huge empire. Of like millions of followers. Actually, like some of the scholars, they say now that there are like over a couple hundred millions. With like current world population, they said the number is definitely over the 100 million. From what I don't want the accurate number with me right now, but huge empire. And the Muslim dua, they went all the way to the top. They knew it is a tribal African, culture, and they knew that according to their religion and according to their tradition, the king was considered to be holy. And whatever the king does or embraces, then the entire nation follows automatically. So the Muslims now waste time, they just went to the head, and they knew if they can convince the king, then the whole nation or the whole empire would follow. So they went to the king, and then they introduced him to Islam. And he liked the idea, he loved Islam because if you compare this to the paganism and the old African religions, and even, unfortunately, still even practiced up to today, paganism and Wicca and black magic and all these things that is still practiced there, of course, he felt the difference, and it was so obvious and clear to him. So he decided to accept Islam. But guess what? After he accepted Islam, because those dua did not have that sufficient knowledge of da'wah, a disastrous situation took place. The king, after he accepted Islam, the dua approached him and they told him, just to let you know, now that you became a Muslim, now there is a procedure that you have to go through. He told him, the brother's already laughing, he already knows what's going to happen. He told him that you have to be circumcised. He told him circumcision is mandatory in Islam. And now that you became a Muslim, you must be circumcised. So the king, when he heard this, he was like horrified. And what made it worse, because his people believed that he is holy, he is untouchable, you cannot touch him, you cannot hurt him. So when after the whole empire embraced Islam, they actually, after that happened, the king said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. Who took advantage of this? The Christian missionaries, because at that time Britain was occupying Zaire, and they spread their missionaries everywhere, trying to Christianize Africa. So the missionaries heard of this issue, so they went and they took advantage of this, and they went to the king and they told him, guess what? We have something very similar to Muslims. It has all the good stuff that you like about Islam, but then add to it, no circumcision. So I said, great. And he embraced Christianity, and he, of course, made the whole nation become Christian too. So again, knowledge, lack of knowledge. SubhanAllah. Who said that you have to be circumcised after you accept Islam? Who said that? Where did you get this from? There are a lot of talks about the issue to begin with. And even, where are the priorities? Islam, you have to learn, or as a da'iyah, you have to learn how to prioritize things. Which comes first? So now, knowledge, what I mean by knowledge is basic knowledge of Islam. To be familiar with, you don't have to be necessarily a scholar, of course. The best da'iyah would be a da'iyah who's a scholar. And the best scholar is a scholar who's a da'iyah as well. If you can, alhamdulillah, get both of them, you have the good of both worlds. If you can do that, unfortunately, you hardly ever see scholars who are specialized in da'wah and vice versa. It's just either a scholar who has nothing to do with da'wah or a da'iyah who is not a scholar. Anyway, but I'm not discouraging you, I'm just saying that please have the basic knowledge of Islam. Basic knowledge. Not to explain the 5 pillars of Islam, not to explain the 6 articles of faith, not to explain the moral system. Just basic knowledge of Islam. At the same time, the knowledge of the culture. So you must be familiar with the culture because you may go, subhanAllah, traveling through different parts of the world. I've seen such a significant difference in culture, like something beyond imagination, like even between US and Western Europe. Although it's only the ocean, and same people migrate from the same place. So it's such a huge difference between US and Western Europe. And subhanAllah, the same continent between Western Europe and Eastern Europe. Such a tremendous difference in the culture and the way how people interact, and the way how people even would take things or consider it. It's just so different. SubhanAllah, even the face expressions, even the terms, even so many differences. This is why, inshallah, tonight, or the whole session, inshallah, tomorrow's session after Dhuhr, and also after Isha. By the way, tomorrow is more important than today, because tomorrow you learn practically, okay, how can I do this? Today I'm just giving you the tools. But then tomorrow we'll learn together how to practice these tools and put it into perspective. And from the time I meet a person who I've never met before, or someone who I know, I interact with all the time, but then I'm not sure how to invite him to Islam. I'll learn, inshallah, tomorrow practically how to bring him to Islam. Whether it's someone who I already knew, or someone who I've never met or talked to before, how can I produce a shahada by Allah's will in only a few minutes. 10, 20, 30 minutes. So, the knowledge of the culture is so important because if you're not familiar with the culture, even the way how people even smile, SubhanAllah, I'll give an example. The way how people here, they love smiling. They smile all the time. But then if you do the same thing in Russia, it's like they take it in the wrong way. It's like something's wrong with you. He's smiling. There's something wrong with this guy or this girl. There's something wrong with them. Really, the way how we even take things. I'm just giving you an example. So you have to be familiar with the culture. But inshallah, we'll elaborate on this tomorrow. What does that mean? So, knowledge of the culture and basic knowledge of Islam. Great. So third, I will not put these things in order, but I just wanted to bring first sincerity and knowledge at the top of the list. But then you can bring in other characteristics that you think are important. So, number 3. What would be number 3?
If you don't mind, I want the Prophet please to move there. The sister, they can follow what he's doing. They are going to come here. Please. Yeah, please, everybody go there. Let him finish up. Please, they can watch exactly what he's saying.
Okay, so number 3, what would you think? What would be the third quality of the da'wah?
Manners.
Well, good. I heard manners. So which is Islam, giving da'wah by what? By practicing? Da'wah by action, right? Da'wah by action. Meaning having good manners. So number 3 is da'wah by action. Da'wah by action. And to be honest with you, this is the most effective way to give da'wah, by action. You don't have to say anything. How many people I've come across, how many shahadas that I've seen, and I always have, whenever I meet like a revert, most of the time I ask them at least, tell me the reason why I became a Muslim, or tell me the story. So it's like, I've heard so many times from people that, the reason behind their aversion to Islam, accepting Islam, embracing Islam is, coming through a Muslim who really impressed them with something. Like either was so honest, so trustworthy, smile all the time, such a good mood, calm, patient, just I've seen and I've heard this so many times. Even people come to us and ask us questions about Islam. SubhanAllah, initially, what's sparked their interest about Islam is most likely, or most of the time, it is actually a Muslim neighbor or friend or classmate or co-worker who impressed them and changed their preconceived notions that they had about Islam and Muslims. And this is what sparked their interest and caused them to ask questions. Very good. So da'wah by action. Great. So this is 3. So again, al-ikhlas, sincerity, ilm, knowledge of Islam, basic knowledge, and basic knowledge of the culture, right? And 3 was what? Or you can even say 4 would be da'wah by action. So what would be number 5? Number 5? Great. Very good. Wisdom comes definitely at the top of the list because Allah said, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah," as we mentioned today in khutbah. Bil hikmah wal mawdhi' al-hasan, right? So now, knowledge by itself is not enough, but definitely you must have hikmah. And hikmah, what's the meaning of hikmah? Wisdom. What does it mean to be wise or have wisdom? What does it mean? We'll separate this actually, but what does it mean really to have wisdom?
Well, it's looking at a person being able to challenge him on for giving out based on what they're looking for.
Exactly. To be able to convey the message based upon the person, like know what to say, when to say it, and how to say it, how to convey, how to deliver the message. Yeah, and there's a beautiful athar, saying by Ali ibn Abi Talib, the one who says that خَطُبُ النَّاسَ عَلَى قَدْرِ عَقْلِهِمْ أَتُرِيدُونَ أَن يُكَلِّمَ اللَّهُ رَسُولَهُ, meaning to talk to people according to their level of understanding. Or do you want Allah and His Messenger to be denied and belied? So you have to talk to people according to their level of understanding. You may say the truth, you may say the right thing, but then if you do not know how to deliver it, or when to say it and how to say it, you sometimes it may backfire. Okay, so you have to be really careful. And hikmah, how can we learn hikmah? Experience. So practicing, you can learn definitely from practicing, and what else? From what? What else? From
Reading examples from Sunnah.
absolutely, reading examples from Sunnah, especially the seerah, the biography of Prophet Muhammad. The seerah is amazing to learn hikmah from, and to learn how the Prophet interacted and give da'wah in different ways and different manners to different kinds of people, right? And how do we learn knowledge of Islam? Obviously, it's through what? Huh? From the Quran and the Sunnah, and also from the scholars, from seeking knowledge. Great. And how do we learn sincerity? Huh? What? Sincerity, well, it's from the scholars, but also you have to learn how to prepare your intention. I would say it's through, like, purifying oneself, like, preparing one's intention. I'll give you an example. This, one of the righteous predecessors, he was once invited to follow a janazah funeral. So his friend who invited him to follow the funeral, told him, let's follow this, so just died, let's follow his funeral. So he told him, okay, give me a minute. So he went to the corner and he came back after like a few minutes. So he asked him, what's going on? I mean, what made you go there and come back? He said, well, he invited me, and I honestly did not want to, go with you right off the bat. I just wanted to make sure that I'm doing this for Allah's sake. I want to make sure that I go there and remind myself of that virtue following a funeral, and this and that, and just, so you have to really prepare one's intention, and this comes through dua. Always ask Allah for sincerity. Always ask Allah to make you sincere. At the same time, try to do things in private. Do not do too much things in public. Like as much as you can. Do private things like fasting, like tahajjud, like Quran recitation in private. These things will teach you, inshallah, how to be sincere. And of course, going back to hikmah, learning hikmah also comes from the companionship of the wise and those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed them with wisdom. They don't have to be necessarily scholars or learned people, but they could be righteous people that Allah blessed them with hikmah. As He said, يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء, that He grants hikmah or wisdom to whoever He wants. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can grant the righteous people hikmah just like that. And of course, there is another interpretation for the verse, Surah Al-Baqarah, of course, that says that what's meant by hikmah is nubuwwah, prophethood. But inshallah, both meanings are correct. Alright, so comes after this, what? Number 5, right? Number 5. What would be?
Consistency.
Very good. Consistency. The dialogue should be steadfast, consistent. Steadfast and consistent. Do not give up under any circumstances whatsoever. Look at the prophets. The best example that we see is in the life, the life example of the, especially the Ulul Azm, the 5 top prophets, the messengers. Like, so look at Sayyidina Nuh, for instance, 950 years. 950 years. Giving down to his own people for 950 years. Generations after generations. And did not give up. And, subhanAllah, look at Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, how he was harmed by his own people, as the Quran states, even towards the end of his life, he abandoned. He said, قال ربي إني لا أملك إلا نفسي وأخي فافرق بيني وبين القوم الفاسقين. Right? Allah, I do not have any control over anyone except me and my brother. So just separate me, from the rebellious. So anyway, all the prophets and messengers, they were hurt. However, they were consistent. So never give up, because you know what? You may give down today to someone, and you may say everything that you have. You may speak to them for hours, but then Allah may not open their hearts. I've seen, subhanAllah, we had a Christian missionary. SubhanAllah, she took her 4 years to accept Islam. 4 years, and we're talking about like daily da'wah. 4 years. 4 years later, she accepted Islam. We had a sister actually who accepted Islam recently, who was also a reverend. Actually, she's a reverend of a church, a head of her church, also a missionary, a wife of a missionary, studied theology. Her life is totally dedicated for Christ and spreading Christianity. Even initially, when she started asking questions about Islam and learning about Islam, was actually she wanted to convert Muslims into Christianity. But subhanAllah, in 4 months of almost like daily, at least 2-3 hours almost every day of just talking to her, and subhanAllah, and slowly, just her Christian creed or dogma started just fading away until alhamdulillah, 4 months later, alhamdulillah, she said her shahada and became Muslim. So, and subhanAllah, I remember like during these times, I would, subhanAllah, personally, alhamdulillah, give shahada to her, and like sometimes I would really feel, subhanAllah, we talked to her for so long. Come on. It doesn't take us that long. Most of the people take it like a few times, and alhamdulillah, they give their shahada. But this lady just took it forever. And sometimes I feel like how long this is going to take, or you just want to feel like you just want to give up. Almost like despair gets into your heart, and you want to give up. But this, subhanAllah, what makes you steadfast and strong and just supports your heart is the qasas, the stories of the Anbiya of the Quran. They were so consistent, and they never give up. The Prophet, it's mentioned in the Athar that he's gone to Abu Jahl, the Fir'aun of this ummah, over 300 times. Can you imagine? The biggest enemy of this ummah, the Fir'aun of this ummah. So, consistency, because you do not want to give up. You surely do not want to give up. But there is a fine line between being consistent and between being pushy. You have to be consistent but not pushy or preachy. Make sure that you never, do not do this. Never ever be pushy or preachy, but be consistent. Consistent, and add to this wisdom. Consistent and wise and learned and sincere, subhanAllah, what? An equation. Of course, we're going to add to them other characteristics as well, inshallah. So, and one thing I'd like to add before we move on to the following quality is, believe it or not, you are rewarded for giving da'wah, whether they accept Islam or not. Because your job at the end of the day is fadakir. As we mentioned in Jum'ah, fadakir, so remind, you are nothing but a reminder. You are only a reminder. You don't have any control over them. You do not guide whomsoever you like. Surely Allah guides whomsoever He wants. Right? So you are getting rewarded, whether they said their shahada or not. You are getting rewarded. So what counts at the end of the day is the effort that you have put in there. Whatever you exerted, this is what you are getting. But then, whether they choose to accept Islam or not, it's up to them. Some prophets will be resurrected on the day of judgment and only have few followers. And others will be resurrected with only a couple of followers. And others will be resurrected with just one follower. And others will be resurrected with no followers whatsoever. Prophets. Speaking of prophets. Prophets. So you can imagine. Alright, great. So what will be next? Inshallah. We have so far just, again, I'd like you to really study these things and memorize them together. So sincerity, knowledge of Islam, basic knowledge of Islam, knowledge of the culture, and wisdom, or da'wah action, great, and six would be consistency, great. So number 7, what?
I think you should be trustable. You
Okay.
should be able to trust you.
But that falls under da'wah action. Da'wah action.
Confidence.
Huh?
Confidence.
Very good. The Da'i Allah must be confident. He must have confidence. So the Da'i Allah must be confident. Meaning he should have yaqeen. So I would categorize that with the Da'i Allah must have yaqeen. Certainty of what he's preaching. He's very confident. And yaqeen in Islam, or yaqeen in Arabic, linguistically means what? Yaqeen is to believe in something as if you can see it. So now I have yaqeen that I can see all of you. And you have yaqeen that you can see me. So this is yaqeen. So for you to believe in something so much that you believe in it as if you can visualize and see it right before your eyes, this is the yaqeen. So the Da'i must have yaqeen. Must have yaqeen in what he's preaching, in what he's saying, in what he's conveying. He must be so strong, because guess what? If you don't have that yaqeen, you may get hurt. I've seen practical examples. I've seen people who started giving da'wah, but they did not have that yaqeen in their heart. And what happened? They either totally left Islam and they became just agnostic, or totally left Islam and became even atheist. There's this brother who used to give like debates. He used to debate Christians. And subhanAllah, when you debate Christians, you're just opening fire. You're just at yourself. And what happened, that they started just bombarding him with like shubhat, doubts and accusations, allegations about the Prophet ﷺ, about the Quran, about the authenticity of the Sunnah, about the authenticity of everything in Islam. And the guy just became atheist, eventually. So never start giving da'wah before you work in your yaqeen. But I'm not saying you have to have the yaqeen literally, like how Ali ibn Abi Talib used to say, that if the hijab were to be lifted, or the partition, meaning how the ghaybiyat, unseen things in Islam, like the day of judgment, like the life of the graves, like heaven and hell and all these things. He said, if I were to see it myself, if the hijab were to be lifted and I can witness these things, my iman will not increase an ounce. You don't have to get to that point, but I'm just saying you should be strong Muslim, you should really believe in what you're saying. Great. Alright, so yaqeen. What else? Go ahead.
Sacrifice.
Very good. So dedication, but this falls under consistency. So this dedication of sacrifice, this is part of consistency. Great example here. So what else?
Patience.
Exactly, I'm looking for this one. It's patience, sabr. Patience. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تكونوا كالذين آذوا موسى فبرأ الله مما قالوا وكان عند الله وجيها. SubhanAllah, we hear even again the example of the prophets. The example of Sayyidina Musa. Sayyidina Musa was so hard by his people that Allah said, "O whom we do not hurt." لا تكونوا كالذين آذوا موسى. Do not be like those who hurt and harmed Musa. He was really hurt. He was really hard, but then he was very patient. Look at the example of Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam. So Luqman, when he advised his son, he told him, "Ya bunay, aqim as-salat wa'mur bil ma'ruf wa nahy 'anil munkar wasbir 'ala ma asabak." He told him, "Oh my son, oh my beloved son, enjoy." He said actually establish prayers. Aqim as-salat wa'mur bil ma'ruf, and enjoy the good, forbid evil. And the best good that you enjoy is Islam, to give da'wah to people and to convey the message of Islam. This is the best of al-amr bil ma'ruf. When we hear all the time that al-amr bil ma'ruf, enjoying good, this is da'wah. And forbidding evil is forbidding people from kufr. So now he's telling him, establish your prayers, enjoy goodness and forbid evil. And he told him immediately after this, and be patient because you'll be afflicted. Once you start giving da'wah, you'll be afflicted and you'll be tested, so you must be patient. You should never feel, oh, you know what, why do I even have to bother? No. You may think sometimes, as the brother will just say, sacrifice, because when you give down, you must sacrifice your time, you must sacrifice your money, and you have to have patience. You have to definitely have patience, because when we hear, subhanAllah, the beautiful hadith that talks about guiding just one person to Islam, if you leave this life by with just one person that you guided to Islam, this is better for you than the entire universe and what it contains, according to the authentic hadith, right? So think about it. It is worth it. It is definitely worth it. Great, so patience. What else? What else? Besides patience. We mentioned patience, wisdom, certitude, yaqeen.
Love.
Great. So we put this under the category of being loving, compassionate, kind, sympathetic with those that you are giving down. Ar-Rafa, compassion. So the da'iya Allah must have compassion towards those he's giving down to, right? Receiving down. So, an example to just give you a clear idea, the Prophet ﷺ once was in Al-Madinah and actually sitting down with his companions, and subhanAllah, something very strange happened. A funeral of a Jewish passed by, and of course, just as a historic background, the Ansar of Al-Madinah, or the Arabs, the residents of Al-Madinah, they really despised Jews because there was like an economical struggle between them. The Jews really controlled their economy, and they would give them loans that they cannot pay on time. They would just enslave them. There was so much going on. They really hated each other. They were just literally sucking their blood. So they really hated them. So, for them to see a Jewish man being dead, that's a celebration for based on the background that they have. But then the Prophet ﷺ did something very strange. When he saw this man's funeral, he actually cried over him. He wept over this man. And he actually, another narration also, he stood up out of respect. And the Sahaba was sitting down with him. They were shocked. They said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, he's just a Jew. Like, he's, alhamdulillah, is good. It's like, we hope the rest follow the same and just will get rid of all of them." No, the Prophet ﷺ here set the standard. And he said, "Nafsun tafalatat min yadi ila an-nar." It is a soul that slipped out of my hand into the hellfire. He was so compassionate, even towards his enemies. Look at also the neighbor who used to throw impurities, and he used to throw dirt and just thorns, and he used to hurt him and throw garbage at his doorsteps, right? To hurt him. And the day that the Prophet ﷺ, walked out of his door and he didn't find anything on his path, he inquired about the situation of this man. What happened to him? He was basically the head of the country, pretty much like a president. Just ask one of the Sahaba to excuse him, and that's it. He's done. But no, we sent you only as a mercy for mankind. So here, the fact is that the Prophet ﷺ here asked about this man, and then he learned that he was sick, and he even went and visited him at his house. And by the way, the narration doesn't even mention that the Prophet gave him dawah when he visited him, or told him to become Muslim. But the point is, the Prophet ﷺ was so compassionate, he was so sympathetic, like he had so much kindness and love and compassion towards the Madawah. And this is one thing that I see really 90% of the dua are lacking, is love and compassion. They do not, the Christian missionaries, the preachers, they show, if you ever interact with one of them, they show you so much love. That we really care for you. Jesus loved you, and they talk about all these loving stuff and compassionate stuff and kindness, and they get emotional and so on and so forth. SubhanAllah, but you find a lot of Muslims, they give down, they give with arrogance. Like, this is what you have to believe, otherwise you're going to the hellfire. Or they talk to him as I'm better. This is what comes to the following characteristic, which I'll help you with it, because most of the time people do not figure out the next one. It is humbleness. That one must be humble, down to earth. He should never act in a way that he would make the people, or intimidate them, that they are listening to him. He should be very humble, down to earth, and he should act in a way that will not, again, intimidate those people. Because if they feel that he's speaking to them in a certain manner, or he knows even better that he's, wow, this guy's a scholar, so no, just be down to earth, be humble, and really be be like this nice, humble guy. Maintain that at all times. Never, ever get into a confrontation. Even if they insult you, even if they tell you things that you do not like to hear, even if they insult your prophet, or even if they curse your book, because guess what? This is going to block their heart. I understand it should hurt us, listen to these things. I definitely understand it kills me from the inside anytime I hear someone insulting our deen. But then you have to look at it from the other side. I can give it to him. I can really make him hate himself, but what's going to happen? I lost this person. The Prophet ﷺ himself, he would be cursed by the people, and he would hear, all the awful names that he would, claim and say about it, but he still would give them da'wah in a very compassionate manner. And this is what causes enemies to love him, right? And to accept Islam. And look at Fatih Makkah and what happened after the conquest of Makkah. All these enemies who fought him for years, they accepted Islam. Not based on fear whatsoever, because the Prophet ﷺ told whoever stays in his house, whoever does not interfere with or basically attack us, is his enemy, is safe, is secure. Then when they saw, the kind of, subhanAllah, the kind of the Prophet's love and humbleness that he showed, they accepted Islam. So at all times, maintain humbleness. Never talk to them in an arrogant way. Never tell them that you either accept Islam or go to hellfire, or use like hurtful words like this. Be just humble. Okay, great. So now we have humbleness, right? We have this to the list. I hope that you're writing everything. And before humbleness, we had what? Compassion. Exactly. Are we missing anything? Huh? Intelligence? Meaning? Great. But this, I would really, this would fall under the category of hikmah. Because, the hakim, or the wise person, you should be, of course, intelligent, and you should know what to say, what to say. Because if we say intelligence, someone may say, well, I'm not very intelligent. This could be an excuse. No. But you should really try to learn how to speak to the people according to their level. This is hikmah. And of course, intelligence, I don't believe that someone is born intelligent. Of course, some genes may vary, but you can always gain intelligence by you practicing the muscles of your brain. So, wallahi, I'm telling you, I don't believe that someone can tell me, well, I'm not born intelligent. No, you can. If you use your brain cells and you work out the brain cells, you can gain intelligence. And this goes on hikmah. But we are missing something important. Da'wah action. This is da'wah action.
Listening to the person who are
Great, you come very close. So listening, that's what falls under what? Listening and talking. Huh? And discussion falls under communication skills. The da'i Allah must have good communication skills. You must have good communication skills. And subhanAllah, we are offering this course. It's actually called neurolinguistics. This is what they say, that how Obama won the elections in 2008 because he was so good at this neurolinguistic stuff. He was just so good at it. Like he probably studied very well. And this is the knowledge that if you gain, you get charisma. You know how to penetrate the hearts and the minds of the people. You know how to influence them. You know how to inspire them. So it's like subhanAllah. At the same time, you as a da'iyah must have public speaking skills too. When I was a full-time imam, I used to always have weekly, every single week, would have one of the brothers who are 10 years of the masjid, from the congregation, from the jama'ah, must give a khatib so that we can gain the communication skills and kind of work on their public speaking skills. Because you can have all of the above, but if you don't have the skills to convey it and to deliver it, it's like nothing, right? Imagine having a Mercedes, like 2013, with no gas. It's got everything, but just no gas to just start. So subhanAllah, so da'iyah must work on his communication skills, including language too. Even learning English, you should work on your English every single day. Even if, by the way, I'm speaking, even if you are born in the US, I personally work on the terminology all the time. Like I read their books, I listen to their speeches, to the missionaries, but again, I'm not saying that everyone is qualified to do this. Unless you have that yaqeen, I would not suggest that you listen to them. But I personally listen to them, to use the same terminology, to use the techniques that the Americans are used to, so that subhanAllah can talk to them according to their level of understanding. And using terminology is so important, because if you use like foreign terminologies or terminology that they're not used to, even if they are English, still they will not click with you, they will not connect with you. So, for instance, when you speak to them, never say Allah. Always say God, or the Creator, the founder of the universe. All revere, because if you say Allah, subconsciously it's a different God. Or even if you explain it, it's like in their mind, this is a different God. Like I've heard Pat Robertson on 700 Club, the famous Christian show, saying that, you know what, Allah is the moon God. And if you don't believe me, look, the crescent of the Muslims. This is their symbol. The worship of the moon. Liars, plain liars. So many things. That's what God. Instead of saying, Shaitan, always you can say Satan or Lucifer. But once you say Lucifer, they reconnect with Lucifer. Iblis in English. Use this kind of terminology like the apocalypse. The apocalypse is like the day. Just use the word apocalypse. So communication skills is very, very important. Very good. Are we missing anything? Are we missing anything? What do you think?
About generosity.
Good. Falls under dawah action too. See, dawah action is like you are generous, you're honest, you're reliable, all the akhlaq. To have good akhlaq. And this is part of it. Go ahead, brother.
Practicing this thing.
Dawah action. So let's inshallah list them again. So first one is sincerity of intention. Second one, knowledge of Islam and knowledge of culture. Great. Fourth one, dawah action. Fifth, according to the list. Fifth. The list, someone was like wisdom. Great. 5 is wisdom. 6, consistency, steadfastness. 7, yaqeen, certitude. 8, patience. 9, compassion. 10, humility or humbleness. Great. And 11, communication skills. Do I have anything else? You're very close. I will conclude with this, is ad-du'a. Ad-du'a. You give da'wah during the day and you make dua during the night. You give da'wah for the people during the day and you make dua for them during the night. So dua, dua, dua. رَبِّ اهْدِ قَوْمِي فَإِنَّهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Also numerous times. He would make dua. Even, subhanAllah, on the day that he was hurt, they made his feet bleed. They all kind of, they persecuted him, they injured him, they insulted him, and still would say, make dua for that. Just make dua for that. So dua. Great. And they'll conclude with dua. Great. Okay, so now that we've finished this first part, I don't want to take long because I know, you're getting tired probably, but I'd like to maybe open the question and answer, the door for question and answer, if you have any thing related to this topic, related to tonight's topic, and related to any of these things that we discussed today. Any questions? Go ahead.
What are the details about this linguistics class?
I'm sorry?
What are the details about
The details basically is you can attend them, inshallah, in our weekly class. We have actually daily class, but we are offered on Sundays.
online?
On Sunday, online. If you can go to our website for more details, mercyformankind.net. Mercyformankind.net. We have actually a brother who's mashallah professional trainer, who's certified. This is a course that if you take outside, it costs you $8,000. $8,000. We offer it for free. All our services, all our training we offer for free. Okay, great. Second, go ahead.
I know typically when there's a discussion that of the Prophet ﷺ or Islam, when they're talking negatively about it, you're supposed to just step away from that conversation. But with the intention of da'wah, how would you deal with something like that?
Exactly. You only step away if you cannot hold yourself. But definitely as a da'iyah, you must learn how to be patient. That happens to us all the time when we get into a discussion or are giving doubt to someone, and they come with all these presumptions and preconceived notions about Islam and Prophet ﷺ, and bring forth everything. I mean, they trash the percent of the message of Allah, or trash the Quran, or if you walk away from this person, that's it, it's done. You may not get a chance to speak to them, because the way how I view any individual that I give da'wah, this could be the only chance in his life to listen from someone about Islam, especially from a qualified person about Islam, because you may talk to someone who's not qualified, you even turn them off even more. So it's like, you know, I consider this is a one lifetime opportunity that I cannot waste. Under any circumstance, this is what I should learn how to be patient. Repress my anger. Just keep it inside. You keep yourself cool. Do not get loud. Do not make yourself, I mean, look obvious that you're angry or your face get red. You know, if you have a fair face or something, it's so easy. So people can see it right there on your face. If you're angry gets red. And no, really try to control your emotions. Do not get angry. Be patient. I'll leave them finish everything. SubhanAllah, you know, I was, you know, remember Libya, you know, what happened in Libya after they killed the ambassador? That was what, 2 months ago or something? I was actually flying from Ontario, California to Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. I saw how this old lady was sitting next to me in the plane. And she started a conversation. She heard me on the phone. I was trying to book a hotel. Actually, I was changing flights in Phoenix, but then I was heading to Seattle after that. So I was